What was critical about this film more than anything else was that it was teetering on the edge of failure. I started experimenting with a 240 sideways, cameras sideways. On the hull of the ship, I wanted to put a little shadow of me in a spacesuit with a camera.
I've seen Project Hail Mary 6 times now, and every time I watch this movie, I think to myself, damn, this looks good. And that stands to reason because it was shot by Academy Award-winning cinematographer Greig Fraser. You already know his work from The Batman, Star Wars Rogue One, both Dune films, and I think one of the best-looking crime films ever made, Killing Them Softly. You've probably seen my video, Why Don't Movies Look Like Movies Anymore? And I just want to say, in this conversation, you're going to find out everything that everybody else should be doing to make a movie look like a movie. Obviously, they use some very interesting tech and tools and gear, but really the core of why this movie looks so good is the narrative choices and the instincts that Greig and his team had while filming it. And that's really what I wanted to get to with Greig in this conversation, because it's those narrative choices tied to the story and the characters that really makes this movie shine. This conversation is also extra special to me because if you've been following me for the last few years, the reason I do what I do today is because of Greig's work in The Batman. Covering Greig's work in that film really put me on an interesting path that has led to some incredible opportunities, including shooting Ryan Gosling and Sandra Hüller at the Griffith Observatory, which is why I'm very excited for you to now learn about the cinematography of Project Hail Mary with cinematographer Greig Fraser. I read your American Cinematographers article, which is fantastic. I read the thing you did with Variety, which I think was also great. And I think we've gotten a lot of technical things out of this, which I think is interesting, obviously. And you know this, like the internet, and even in my own videos, it's like, as soon as I get into like, oh, they use this specific camera and this lens, everyone loses it because they're like, oh, I got to go get that thing. I need to buy that. I got to buy that camera. But I'm always trying to look for, I spoke with Roger Deakins not too long ago, and I was always trying to get to the root of like the instinct, right? Which is kind of hard to even find a tangible thought with. But like for me, like I wanted to talk about one of my favorite scenes in this movie because I think it's a good starting point for this because it's going to maybe seem a little bit weird. At the opening of the film, when Ryan's doing the lab tests, when he's trying to figure out what the astrophage is, and there's like a group of like people up in that window in the background, like watching him through like,
don't care if I die.
He goes, are you guys fired up? And you have a camera on him, and then it rotates to a wall for a second, and then it finds the people behind that glass, and then they give the thumbs up. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting because it feels like you almost like, or someone, whoever was operating the camera, because I know you operate a lot, someone found that moment in there. Like there was actually a camera in the room, and it's not that it's a documentary. Like this is obviously Project Summer is not a documentary, but there is a chaos to that and a looseness that I don't think we're used to at a film of this scale to do something like that. And it's throughout the whole movie where you're just like, yeah, I'm going to be out of focus for a bit, and I'm going to find that moment there. I'm going to rack into it, or I'm doing an insert. But that particular moment, he's like, are you guys fired up? The fact that it just cuts to a wall for a second, and then it goes, then it finds them. They're like, yeah, obviously it gets a laugh too. It's like timed so perfectly. But I was so curious about the ethos in that particular scene because I feel like it branches out to a lot of choices in this film. And I've heard Chris and Phil also talk about the Greig take, where you guys would kind of go a little loose. Can you tell me about that?
Well, that's we used to do a vibe pass. So we used to kind of, I think they call it the Greig vibe, which because I have, I have a fantastic operator named Jason Hewitt who operated this movie. He also operated on the Batman for me and came in on June Part Two as well. Because you're right, I do operate the camera a lot of the time. Like, I feel like it's I'm connected to my work via that device that emits, that sucks in light and has all these settings, and you put a bit of glass in the front of. So that's clearly the way that I paint, and I can't do any sort of artwork any other way. And so where that points is as important as what it's pointing at, and how it points at it. So it's very hard for me to work with operators because I see the world through a lens, which is why, by the way, I get along so well with Gareth Edwards, because he is a director that sees his world through the lens. And so the when we first started working, and I kind of realized that that's kind of what he was itching to do, I sort of, he and I bonded over that. But in a take like that that might have been me, and we might have been two cameras. There might have been Jason on A camera and me on B camera, or vice versa. I mean, the A and the B is kind of irrelevant at that point when you're shooting. But what was critical about this film more than anything else was that it was teetering on the edge of failure. in terms of the camera and the lighting and everything. You know, like safety is safety is not something that I enjoy doing. I don't enjoy being safe. You know, I don't enjoy kind of shooting something with heaps of latitude and allowing us to fix it later, or being a still frame and dirtying it up later. Like it's to me, I am absolutely hell bent on making sure that we ride the edge of failure at every single point in time. And you know, a shot like you're talking about was, I mean, again, full credit to the editor Joel as well
Mm.
and the directors, because listen, there's probably lots of those instances that I've shot. To be honest, I've probably panned into a wall and gone, oh, that's a bad idea. Pan back. Oh, this guy's going thumbs up. You know, it might have been a complete and utter mistake. I can't recall exactly the thinking
Mm.
involved in that. And but again, kudos to the editor who kind of went, oh my God, that's beautiful at that point in time. I mean, you look at the guys work with Joel. They've done work with Joel in the past, so they know his instincts. And you know, we are as cinematographers nothing, obviously without our directors, but with our editors as well. Like our editors, you know, choose what they put in from what we've seen. And we can be super diligent about going, okay, we're only rolling from this point to this point, but that doesn't allow freedom and flexibility for performance or for the directors. So, you know, the film itself, like from the very beginning of the film, we needed to make sure there was an analog quality to the film. And I'm not talking about film versus digital, which is a whole other conversation which we can have later. But
Mm.
I'm talking about the fact that things are not that sci-fi digital world where everything is kind of, you know, screens and stuff,
Perfect.
because there
Yeah.
was enough of those screens, and there are, but it was making sure that everything we did from my end was as analog as possible, using technology that maybe wasn't analog, be it digital, be it LED lights, be it all those things that we do to make our craft. So, like that's what I've tried to do in my work recently, and I kind of will probably do in the future, because I haven't yet got tired of seeing things with texture. Um, and yeah, that was probably all. That scene itself was very much handheld. So yeah, who operated it, I don't know, but I mean Jason Hewitt as an operator is extraordinary, as anybody
But
will tell you who's worked with him.
yeah, what I think is also cool about that in there, like that texture also comes from production design and creating a world where you can whip the camera somewhere else in a moment to
Mm,
find actors somewhere else. Because I think some of the, I mean, we can kind of get into this, but it's like there is obviously you've maybe seen my video where it's like, why don't movies look like movies anymore? And like a lot of that comes around to this, like, I don't know what the word is, because I know like plastic gets thrown around a lot, like it feels flat
yeah,
and stuff like that. And some of that actually, you know, maybe paradoxically, kind of feels from like lighting too specifically, right? Where I find in a lot of your work, I kind of feel like if I'm there, even with my iPhone, it's so well done in terms of production design. I can kind of point a
yeah.
camera pretty much anywhere in that space. And if I know my angles and I know I'm smart with my lensing, I'll find something that looks good. Talk about
Hmm.
that on this movie, because it does really feel, especially on the Hail Mary ship, that you can kind of go anywhere. And I think you had to, because Rocky could potentially go anywhere, right?
Yeah, he potentially could. Obviously, when you've
Yeah.
got 17 puppeteering
Puppeteers. Yeah, yeah.
Rocky, it's hard for 17 to make a decision to
Totally.
quickly go into that corner without me having full knowledge of that and then lighting the
Yeah.
space accordingly. But
Yeah.
having said that, I'll tell you what could have happened is Ryan could have gone anywhere, and also
Yeah.
Phil and Chris with Ryan could have chosen to go into that deep dark corner that I'd never lit before. So you're
Mm.
100% right that they're always, well, particularly on a show like this. But this was my brief. This is the brief I gave myself, and this is the brief that I promised the guys that I would do. Like they're they're very quick, very clever, as is Ryan. I mean, you've met Ryan, and you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. He's
how
great.
quick and clever the
Yeah.
guy is.
Yeah.
Sharp as a tack. Like he will come up with all these great ideas, and the guys will workshop, and we'll work on something. And so I, as a cinematographer, need to be 100% dialed in to there needs to be a change in my lighting plan that I have. Um, so there are different approaches to different films and different shots for that matter. You know, like you talked again about the Batman before. Like
Mm.
the Batman wasn't that film. Like the
Yeah.
Batman was not in any way. I was not whipping off anything to go anywhere on the
Yeah.
Batman. Again, that Jason Hewitt operated. that was, this is the shot, and that's the shot, and
Mm,
that's it. And so you spend that time lighting, and it's not that I'm against doing that, because I love doing that.
mm,
But I also love flexing the muscle of, well, let's give ourselves the ability to shoot 360. But it's not just about light too. The other thing is that light is one thing,
yeah.
and listen, I must say, growing up in this era rather than 40 years ago is magnificent, because it means that, you know, more sensitive cameras, I have to light less. If I pan over to something and it's badly lit, I have a shot at making it better lit in the grade.
Mm,
Do you know
mm.
what I mean? Like, so
Yeah, yeah,
less fussy when it comes to, not less fussy, that's a bad term. I'm less stressed or less concerned if I'm looking at something with a camera and it's the performance of the century, or something happens that was never planned, but
mm.
it's not up to my standard of lighting quality. There are things you can do about it. You never want to fix it in post. You never want to be that
No,
cinematographer that
no,
just
no.
swings the camera around. You need to be, like, you have to be considered about your lighting, but it just means there's a bit of leeway when it comes to
Mm,
things, when you want to flex and you want to change ideas, and the ability to kind of do that on a ship like that was because we were built they were 360 sets.
yeah,
We did walk into the lab and we did have a 360 set, and the guys liked that, and we designed it such that we had entry and exit points that you wouldn't know by watching the movie, but
yeah,
we
yeah,
did, because pull that cabinet away and then you can get in, and then we close up, start the camera rolling, start the action, and I or Jason goes to town, just following Ryan around. um and very, very enjoyable, because it meant that you know we were kind of inventing as we went. Not making it up's not the right word, because the
yeah,
structure was there, everything was
yeah,
there. The pre-production was so precise. Like, um, before Ryan even started, we went into 3D sets. With the guys, we built all the
yeah, yeah.
sets in 3D. We went into Unreal Engine. We had a volume, not an LED volume, like a motion capture volume,
Mm.
that we could then point this virtual camera anywhere, and I knew effectively what was going to look good in the sets, and make adjustments to the sets before they were built, and therefore also in my mind just light them well in advance as well.
I want to talk about like narrative lighting too, because another shot that I really love in this movie is when Rocky. Spoilers are okay. This movie's been out for a couple weeks now. Rocky tells Grace, like Ryan, that he can give him the fuel, and Ryan's
Yeah.
completely in a silhouette, like he's fully
Oh
like
yeah.
front lit. What I think is so interesting about this is you then cut to a wider shot where Ryan's still in the dark and he comes into the light, and when he comes into that light, he's already got tears in his eyes. So that's performance that started in shadow. And when I
Mm.
see that, I go, wow, the choice. That's so, because you're like, a lot of people's instincts might be, okay, Ryan's got to put it on for this one. Like he's got to really feel so happy that he's gonna live. Like he's not gonna die anymore. Rocky's giving him the fuel. Make sure he's
Yep.
got a key light on him. Or you guys went, no, no, no. Dramatically, and also just like how this set feels, it should be. He's in shadow. That's where he was. I'm not gonna give him an eye light even. Can you talk about that in this? Where you guys are those conversations instinctual in that moment? Like, because you got to tell Ryan, like you probably had for blocking. It's like you have to come into the light for this scene. Do you remember that sequence? Like how that
A
sort of went through?
million percent. It was
Yeah,
very, very, because that was an interesting scene, because it's clearly a very important one, because he starts
yeah.
the scene going, right, mate, I'm out of here.
I'm out of here.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm dead. I'm dead.
yeah.
That's cool, man.
I've
I'm good.
I've made
I'm
peace
good.
with it. I've made peace with it.
All
Yeah,
good. All good.
yeah.
All good. And so that was a really interesting scene, because I had a plan for all the sets,
Mm,
and particularly the lab. If you recall, the lab is
yeah,
is and we can get into the theory behind the different lighting. It wasn't
yeah.
lighting for lighting's sake. There was a theory behind all of the choices in
Mm.
the lab.
Because the light wasn't just that it was the sun. It was like how they were sleeping, right?
The one thing I didn't want the film to look like was cold, sterile. That the classic. You see all the footage in the ISS, International Space Station, and it's all fluorescent lit. It's all cold. There's no warmth to it. It feels like a machine. It feels like you're living inside a machine.
Mm,
And my thought process, and one thing I pitched to the guys was like, if the top scientists had put all of the best minds together to send three people to space to save the planet, they would also be hiring psychologists. They'd be hiring lighting designers. They'd be hiring all sorts of people because you can't put humans in a tin can for that many years and have them expect them to do their job properly. You need to
Mm,
create sort of an idea of circadian rhythms, the way our body works. We wake up, we work hard, we just wind down, we go to sleep. And so I researched and studied all manner of what lighting is doing for circadian rhythms, and what
mm,
color of light should be when you wake up to get the best out of you, to get when you start winding down, the color of the light, red light to get rid of all the blue. This is the whole thing. We have screens. It's like you get rid of the blue light. So there's a whole manner of things. Red for healing, people using red for face masks, for hair,
totally.
like all sorts of red light therapy. And ultraviolet for cleaning, which is what you can be cleaning. Remember during COVID, and there's these
Yeah,
ultraviolet kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
phone cleaning machines. And so the thought process was that we need to create a light that's, if it's in the morning on the Hail Mary, what does that look like? You can't just open the blinds and have the sun come in because you might be, you know, miles away from the nearest star. So what the ship has to do is to create its own circadian rhythm for the people. So when he wakes up, and that's the classic thing, the blind comes up, which we didn't see, you hear it, but the blind comes up, it's
yeah,
daytime. And the idea was that I was hoping that you would just believe you're in some, fancy, interesting Japanese hotel when he wakes up, or some Japanese hospital or
yeah,
something that's
yeah,
just a little bit kind of odd because it's a window light. It needed
yeah.
to look like a daylight, but not sun coming through, but a daylight. And so again, we researched. There's a whole series of lights that are now being built that look like skylights that are actually that wide. They're LEDs with lights in them, and so every lighting choice had the basis of what time of day should it be. And so I had a lighting plan for that particular scene, and we blocked it through, and it became apparent that my lighting plan wasn't good for that.
Mm,
It wasn't appropriate. I think we used it for something else. I mean, we had about 75 different lighting plans for the lab, so we could use it somewhere else. And so, but just the way Ryan was playing it, um, was kind of quite apparent that we needed to create a little bit more backlight and a little bit more mood,
mm,
and it needed to be a little more. It's like 7 o'clock at night, dishes have been done, everyone's sat down to have a read a book. It's that type of lighting. It's it's that wind down hour. So we set it at that type of day. It's like, all right, off to bed, tuck you in, I'm good, I'm
yeah,
good, I'm gonna die, but it's all good. I'm good.
yeah,
And then, you're playing on Rocky's moment there of like not being able to save his buddies,
yeah.
and so that was a discussion about how we then shoot Ryan, because how do we shoot Ryan hearing that he's got enough fuel. It'll take
Yeah,
him
yeah,
6 more years, but he's got enough fuel to go.
yeah.
How do we play that? And the choices are endless. You know yourself. Like, do we play Ryan looking at Rocky? Do we play Ryan doing something away and fixing something?
Mm,
And the what we came up with, and this is where I think the beauty of a collaboration between everybody is, again, how we got there I don't quite recall because there's so
yeah,
many choices made on a film.
absolutely.
But we got he walked away from Rocky down that little hallway, and we used our beautiful lighting rig, which was our moving light rig.
Yeah.
Um, but what was lovely about it, and what I really enjoyed about that, was the fact that rather than him just stopping and standing there and just being a silhouette, I really wanted desperately to see a little bit into his eye, not
Mm,
the moment of recognition, but the
mm,
moment of before that kind of. And there was a little, asked Ryan to turn his head just a little bit to the right, and there's a little glint just in his right eye, like if it's back three-quarter.
yeah, I know.
And it was a very particular point where he had to hit it just to get that eye, but it wasn't a teary eye, like it wasn't that
No.
wasn't what that was, because like you
But
said,
it's like a
you
glimmer.
save it.
It's a realization. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so turns his head, you get that little glint, and then it cuts back to Rocky. I think. Again,
It
I
does.
don't
Yeah,
know the
yeah,
film
it
well
does.
enough. Yeah.
It might even like
But
go right to the wide shot. Yeah, or the
maybe,
front shot.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But then when he comes and then walks into that light, which is coming from the lab
So
at the
yeah.
other end of the room, then yes, it was very much then a noir idea where he enters into the light from the
Mm,
shadows. And the film's not a noir, it's not a shadowy film, it's not a noirish film,
no.
but that type of moment where you don't see the build up to that point
Mm,
means that just when he emerges from the light, like I remember shooting that, just going, oh man, look,
yeah. No, I get
that's
goosebumps
beautiful.
thinking about it. I get
It's
goosebumps thinking about it
beautiful,
now. It's
beautiful. I
so
mean,
so
Ryan's.
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you can never get tired of looking at Ryan's performance, and in that moment, particularly, you just go, like, "This is stunning."
It's stunning. And even when there's like, because you guys go to like a more of a close up, and he's sitting there like this, and he's like, I didn't mean any of that. When Rocky's like, I thought you made peace, and he's doing stuff where it's almost like he knows when he should look towards the light a bit to give himself some key. You
Right,
know what I mean?
Ryan's an expert. Ryan's done this before. He
Yeah, yeah,
knows his stuff, and he knows his stuff, but he also like he's a professional actor, and he's
mm,
seen himself, and he knows what he's worked with some of the greatest cinematographers
yeah,
in history. Like so.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he knows. I'm sure Roger told him,
Roger told him something. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
gave him a little less. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how, but he's a clever guy.
He is. And there's even like a bit of a callback towards that scene, and I don't even know if it was intentional or not. I want to hope that it is, but even if it's not, I think it's even cooler. Is when he finds out he's going to be sent. They want to send him to space, like when they're like, "You got to go." Like when the scientist accident happens, and he's in like that boardroom, and you have him kind of looking almost just like kind of down the barrel, and with the sound design, you actually turn the lights off in the room when he's like sitting
Yeah,
there, and he kind of realizes the gravity of the situation that's about to happen. It like three lights shut off to darkness before we go. Then we go back to find out what happened with Rocky and Grace. But like
yeah,
those kind of moments too. Like, is that planned in the script? Like, is that just like what we could do something narrative here with the lighting? Let's play with it.
yeah, and also lenses too. So that particular shot we shot with our space lenses versus
Mm.
our
Oh,
Earth
geez, that's
lenses.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so it wasn't. I saw it. I just saw it in IMAX recently. Again, you got to forgive me for my lack
No,
of
don't
knowledge
worry
about
about
the
it.
final edit
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. No, it's
there's
all
been
good.
quite a few shots shot between then and now. But
Yeah.
um, we definitely shot that on our space lenses,
Mm.
and we framed it in such a way that it would kind of work in IMAX or it would work in 240.
Yeah.
But we definitely did shut off those lights because that was then cutting into another sequence. There was quite a number of these match cuts that we did,
The
um,
feet, the shoe
and
shots and stuff
yep,
too. Yeah.
yep. Rotating back into him in the classroom. Like there's a ton of ones, and there's a few that we didn't make the cut because
Mm.
certain things were adjusted and changed, and but there were a lot of transitions. There was a lot of thought about that because finding our way back again. This is going slightly off that topic, but going back into finding our way from space into Earth was part of the way we did that was through
Yeah.
doing something that was just definitely something that was a little bit odd,
Yeah.
to signify that memory. So, there were those moments. There was the reshot film, the mistimed shutter effect that we
Yeah,
we blurred
tell
and
me about that
we
because people
skimmed.
didn't. Yeah, if people didn't read the article, you filmed like a screen on film, right? Is that how that worked for
Well,
the
the
Scooby Doo
backstory is
effect?
that yeah. Well, the backstory
Yeah.
was that the guys asked me because they were editing at this point, right? This is well
Mm,
into the edit, probably I reckon 4 months before the release, let's say. Um, and we'd done all the transitions, and they'd obviously cut the film, and it was looking great, feeling great, but they went, "There's just we just want to make that transition a little more blurry, a little more kind of." And I think the guy said, "Yeah, you remember in Scooby Doo when they're remembering something that happens, like, and there's a little like the waves across the." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, every Saturday, Sunday morning, watching cartoons for 50 years now. Like, you kind of remember exactly what that technique is."
yeah.
But they said, but the good version of that, which is, obviously the serious filmmaker version of that. And so one thing I love and love and love and love about IMAX, obviously, is the fact that you've got 240 potential to 140. And, on some films I've done, we've widened out. With some films, we've done the whole thing at 1.4. This film, we were widening out in space and narrowing down in Earth. And so I wanted to suggest a way that we could shoot something that kind of made that transition a bit smoother. And when you cut from 143 to 240, it literally does that with a hard cut. And so I remembered a technique that I'd done on music videos years ago, that on film where you mistime the shutter on an ARRI 435, and you can dial in an effect of a vertical blur. It happened. Saving Private Ryan did that in the opening
Mm,
sequence of Saving Private Ryan. I mean, Kaminsky did that to great effect on that movie, and I think that's where I first learnt about it. And you can time it. There's a dial that you can dial in the amount of vertical smearing that happens.
interesting.
And so we effectively reshot that footage, the 240 footage, but we shot it on a 140 screen, meaning that when you mistimed the 240 footage, it bled out
Blurred.
into the 140. Meaning when you watch it in IMAX, suddenly you're looking at a 140 image, but it's bleeding out into the top and the bottom of the cinema. Um, and we did a little test on that, and the guys went, "That's what we're doing." And so we did variations where we sort of, because you don't know when you're doing it how extreme it is. You just can guess because it's film. And
Mm,
so Julian Mawson, who did some inserts and pickups for us, later on as I was prepping this other film I'm doing at the moment. He would just dial up and dial down, and dial up and down, knowing when the edit was, and then dialing up, and then trying to dial it out. And so that gave the team in the editorial the ability to sort of cut different vertical blurring, streaking, different vertical
mm,
streaking, which again was a bit of a theme in the movie. Like with
yeah.
the whole vertical flare with the anamorphics, like that sort of. It was a kind of a it was a bit of a visual theme that kind of
It's like
suited
a
the whole thing.
motif. It's a motif that kind of
Yeah.
fits through the whole film. Yeah,
Mm.
because I mean, we can kind of get into the weeds a little bit on the vertical because obviously this isn't your first IMAX film, and then going into this, knowing you're probably going to do IMAX again, what was it really from like doing Dune that you wanted to play with that format in a different way this time? Like you wanted to do instead of like cropping the 65, like doing the expanded up instead.
I mean, one thing I do love to do is to push myself to be a little bit uncomfortable about things.
Mm,
And it's nice to, like, June, I'm very, very proud of, and the way that we did that, super proud of. And I love that
it's
movie,
gorgeous.
even
Yeah,
now, if I see it anywhere, I just stand there and gaze. I mean, some of the sequences I still don't believe that I was associated with, like some of that
yeah,
worm
yeah.
running
It's
stuff. I'm
awesome.
like, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm still
Yeah,
quite immodest about how great that those scenes are.
yeah. It's
Not
beautiful.
necessarily photographically, I'm talking about filmically, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just say that. But on this, it was kind of like, well, we had the chance to experiment with something different, and I was playing with all sorts of different squeezes. And again, I don't know where I saw this. I mean, there's been a ton of fantastic content creators on YouTube that I watch
Yeah.
all the time, and there's lots of, I know there's people that have been turning cameras around on the side to shoot Instagram
Yeah,
ratios
yeah.
of,
Like
like, people have been
960
messing with
stuff.
the ratio, yeah, which
Yeah,
I think is genius. And I love it when people start to go, hey, why don't we do something like that, the format of this can. It's like, well,
totally.
why not? Let's
Yeah,
experiment with it. It could be a
yeah.
complete bomb, or it could be the best thing you've ever witnessed in your life. So when people start to experiment with that, then it like kind of creates this kind of fervor of ideas amongst creators, not just content creators as such, but filmmakers and people who are making entertainment. And so I was like, well, taking that a step further, I can't shoot anything that's Instagram. Like, that's not what the brief was. But I
Mm.
know the brief was IMAX 4:3, and so, I started experimenting with a 240 sideways, cameras sideways, just to come up with a bit of a strategy. Like, was it like, say, LF that did that, or was it like I was just experimenting with what would
Yeah.
would do that? And then Ari, put some glass together from remnants of other glass, um, that they had, that existed in the world, that was some anamorphic, some spherical, that kind of changed the squeeze. And we managed to expand the coverage to fit an Alexa 65. And for me, it was like, duh, why didn't I think of that before? Like, you think about why the Alexa. The Lexus 220, right? Approximately.
Yeah.
And two times anamorphics were built to expand an Academy square ratio to 240,
Mm-hmm.
and for entertainment purposes, purely just to get people into the cinema to see widescreen.
100%.
Now the world's going the other way, where people are seeing IMAX. That's the trend, or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And yet the cameras are the widescreen cameras. So they've everything's topsy turvy. So we just managed to find a way to get these lenses to cover, and they aren't perfect. Like they aren't. There are technical problems. I will just
Yeah.
say, like if you really want to get into it, and I don't think it's
Yeah.
worth it, but there are
Yeah.
technical issues that occur if you're shooting landscapes and stuff. But in our sets they were perfect because for
Yeah.
the most part we were cylinders that we needed to shoot a person in the middle of the cylinder,
Mm.
and the edges kind of it just was perfect. It was a perfect
Yeah.
uh, set of lenses to do that particular film, and the side effect was that you ended up with a vertical flare, which was on most movies you'd kind of go ooh, because I even horizontal flare, too much horizontal flare can be a little distracting.
It's jarring. Yeah.
With vertical flare, you could kind of argue that it was a bit distracting on most other movies, but
Yeah.
in a space movie, I'm like, well, why wouldn't you? Like,
Well, I think
you're
I've
going
heard you
to
say
all
it. It's
these
like what's up, what's down. You don't. It's zero
totally
gravity a lot of times, right? No, I think it's really cool.
no,
I think in a way you've kind of, for better or worse, we'll see what ends up happening. You maybe have invented a new look, and you're going to see some people imitate it, maybe in the wrong
great,
spaces,
great,
right?
great,
But I think it's, but
great.
I think it's Jim Cameron has a saying where it's like every filmmaker is like speaking the same language, but every once in a while we add new vocabulary, right?
Yep,
Like we add a new word, like, and the new word could be this vertical or anamorphic thing
yep,
that people go forward with. And what's really interesting about IMAX to me is like obviously like Nolan has said, like filmmaking is only like 100 years old or whatever the number is. It's so new, and I even think what we're doing with IMAX is still so new, and what you
yeah,
can do
yeah.
with that format. So I love that you guys even just experimented and tried something different, like that we haven't seen before, in terms of like how are we going to expand the ratios? Because everyone before was always just like, well, we just cut from the letterboxing to
Yeah,
the wide,
yeah.
right?
And like, do you have enough resolution to do that? And all those other questions about because you've got to build more resolution so you can crop it. And yes, 100%. But hopefully, what that does is it gives license for people to be able to do that because
Mm,
seeing it seeing it online with content creators, I say quote unquote only because that implies that it doesn't imply the importance of that that craft.
mm,
But when people are sort of working on a smaller audience, they're able to experiment with things.
totally.
And uh, but this hopefully then kind of justifies it a little bit into the greater scheme of things. Like,
Yeah.
I recall shooting with those Helioses on the Batman, and then shooting again with them on June 2. You know,
Yeah.
like even Alan at Alan who from Iron Glass who was helping me those. He was kind of a bit like, well, they're this and they're that, and they're great glass, but and I was like, dude, these are amazing. Like, look at the
They're
glass, look at the
amazing. Yeah,
lens,
yeah.
look
Look
at
at
the
look at the
image.
character.
I
Yeah,
said, could
yeah,
you
yeah.
could you argue that that's any lesser than that? Like, it's amazing. These images are amazing. And he's like, I know they're amazing. I've been saying this for 10 years. And I'm like, I agree with you because it's it's all about kind of forgetting what and that you've been told is right, wrong, up or down, left or right, and actually just going, well, what do the images look like? And how do I feel about the images when I look at them? Are they distractingly jarring in a good way, a bad way? Like, should I be doing that? Like, not because they're expensive, not because it's what some dude used on some film last year. It's
Yeah.
because they look good, and that's what that's what gives you the kind of the mood that you're after.
I mean, that's what's so interesting because, like, even when I shot Ryan and them at the Griffith, I kind of purposely, but also because I knew it was the right look for it, I used a really cheap, like $160 lens that I got from China. It's a 40 mil f2 that I've been playing with for the last like 6-7 months.
Yeah.
That I was looking at my GM, Sony GM lenses and stuff, being like, oh, I guess I should shoot it on the best. This is a shoot that I need to have the best gear for. And it's like, yeah, but the look that I want it to feel a little gnarly. Like I want it to feel a little dirty.
Yep.
And maybe the bokeh isn't all that perfect or it's all that clean. Or maybe it's not that sharp, wide open. And of course, I was dirtying it up even more with filters and stuff like that. And I know you were doing stuff like that in the movie. But I did get a lot of flack afterwards, being like, "What do you?" Because you know this obviously, but even in my world, where it's like again the content creator world, everyone's going after tools. Everyone's going after
Mm.
what the thing that you used, right? How did you edit
Hmm.
this? How did you grade this?
Hmm.
What filter did you use? And it's always just like, what was right in that moment for that? Even those filters I use for those photos, a lot of people keep asking me, which specific Amazon filters did you use? And I'm like, I don't know if I'd ever use them again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was just for that. It only, in my opinion, worked and maybe there'll be another project that comes up where I think it'll fit. But again, it's like I don't think you use a Helios for everything, obviously. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
but it worked
Yep.
really really well for those sequences. And I think that's really important for people to understand. It's like tool for the job. It's not that, and again, like you said, it doesn't have to be a signature prime either. It doesn't have to be a thirty
Nope.
thousand dollar lens, right?
No. But it can be.
It
And
can
if
be,
that's
yeah,
what is suitable, then that's what it is. Like it's 100%.
totally.
There should be no, like, I would hate for the world to swing so far the other way
Oh, totally.
that suddenly I'm on my two jobs time. I go to my producers and say, I want a set of, signature primes and a set of,
Yeah, yeah,
ingenue. And they're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, we don't have the budget. Or, or that's not, because the last guy used Helios, like the
Yeah, yeah.
$40 Helios lens. Like
Cause
when it swings that way, then it's dangerous. As dangerous as is the other way. Like they're both dangerous trains of thought.
I mean, it's just like I feel like we're always breaking down the wrong thing because it's like I've even people criticize like blown out highlights a lot where they're like, oh, it's too digital,
Mm.
it's too harsh. You're supposed to see, you've maybe played with an Alexa 35, and it's like they did a demo for me once where they were like we were inside and they had a garage door that they opened in a warehouse and they had an
Yep.
actor like a talent stand in the darkness like that shot of Ryan. You know what I mean? Like if you saw
Yeah.
Ryan there, it doesn't work as well. Like I need Ryan to be like clipped into the shadows. You know what I mean? Like I need him to be in darkness. And so I always think of Kaminsky and stuff like that and what he's done with Spielberg. And I'm like, I love the blown out windows. Why do I need to see outside there? You know what I mean? Like obviously you do it in Project Hail Mary too, where like, yeah, that light is like the sun is outside or whatever it is. That should be
Yeah.
a beamingly bright white just fully gone image. I don't need to see what's out there. But it's really odd to me that I think a lot of people are scared to do that because they're technically told that it's wrong because your vector scope is clipping out. You know what I mean?
Well,
Or
I can see why in that slowly, like evolution occurs slowly, right?
mm,
And like if something's just a little bit better, like on the last job, let's say you had a problem with clipped highlights,
yeah,
and then on this job, this camera has a few more stops, and if as long as you don't go, oh great, well then I'm not going to blow it out anymore. You're not going to use your instinct. You're going to use your brain. Your
mm,
brain says, I want to hold every tone in this shot that I can. Um, then it's dangerous. But the difference with something like that is like for example, on the Batman's a perfect example. I would have loved more pieces of shadow in shadows. Like I would love to sit there. I mean, listen, I'm very happy with the way the Batman came out. We worked really hard on getting it right.
yeah,
But if the difference between a two stop and a 2.3 stop and a 2.6 stop underexposed was a little more smoother and like again
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
dissing the Alexa 65
No, no,
Alexa LF, which is what we shot that
yeah,
on, but I'm saying like there's always room for improvement technically, and I love it that the companies are doing that because it helps us when we are in that pickle when suddenly I can't ND a window and
mm,
I do want it to blow out, but I don't want it to blow out like a 40-year-old digital camera where it just goes boom.
yeah,
And
yeah,
but I want to maintain the shadows in someone's dark side because later I want to pull them together and I want to blow out that, but I want to lift. Like I want that ability. So having more isn't necessarily negative, but the belief that you need to use them, all that tools, is the problem. And I think if we can again revert back to the means and say, yeah, I mean, look at Kaminsky's work on Minority Report or on, I mean,
oh my
far
god, yeah,
out, like any of his films, any of those
yeah,
films, right?
yeah, yeah,
Where you start to go like, I mean, Bob Richardson bringing out the dead, like all those blown out highlights, like those are ballsy. You would have a very hard time doing those on a digital camera because it would not look good. So maybe with more latitude, you can then blow them out, and so then the fall off of highlights is
Mm.
more like film. I don't know. I have to do my own test on that, but I don't think in trying to improve a bit of text, the problem. I think the fact that we feel like we have to use that is the
I
problem.
completely agree. I completely agree. And on that, then it's like too, because it's like I've seen this movie on 70 twice now, like 70 mil IMAX. I consider myself someone who kind of like an IMAX aficionado, if you want to call it that. Like I love,
Yeah.
obviously, I love IMAX films. And I love things shot on 1570. I got to say, what you did here with Hail Mary is the first time I've seen, like, I was entirely convinced you could have shot this on 1570. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
So I always kind of, and this is no diss to 1570. I think it's amazing, and I even love that we're getting the Odyssey this year with Hoyte doing like the entire movie on it. Is like
I mean, I saw the
boggles my
prologue
mind.
during on Sunday.
Yeah,
I was
same.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
"Oh my God, this is
Oh
stunning!"
my
And
god.
this is, I mean, every time I speak to Hotel, I'm kind of like, "Thank you for." I mean, that's what I
Yeah,
love. The event, what they do with events is
yeah.
I love to bits. So yeah, 1570 or aside, I mean, it was stunning. What a great prologue.
Oh, so good. So I'm
Mm.
curious for you, do you have aspirations to want to shoot something on 1570, like to do like a full movie like that? Like for me, this is me my own personal taste. I'm always like I
Yep.
don't know how I would use that camera. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yep. Yep.
the restrictions of it scare the shit out of me. You know,
Hmm.
and whereas when I see the how close like one to one you're getting with like the 65 and doing the film out, I'm just like, well, is it a bit of diminishing returns, or like is there really something to that process when you shoot 1570 that is we can't match it, we can't get to it yet?
It's a little bit. The conversation is a little tricky in the sense that
Yeah.
it's an opinion-based thing right now.
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely. It's so
so
subjective. Yeah, it's totally subjective.
100% subjective, and there's so many factors, and not just the quality or the resolution or the any of
Yeah.
those things that we can quantify through mechanics, through
Mm.
physics. There's a ton of things that we can't quantify, and it depends who you talk to,
Yeah.
and it depends the film that you're making,
Mm.
and the way Nolan and Hoyt have been making movies, they clearly have mastered that process. It is not easy. It is one of the hardest, trickiest things to do, and it provides you limitations. And so, but that's why also some filmmakers like limitations. I mean, Spielberg
Yeah.
loves the fact that you can't just roll. Like he's come out and said it. He likes these 10-minute
Yeah.
takes. Like that's what he loves.
Yeah.
It's one of these things. It's the roll camera, action, and cut. Like he loves that limitation. And I know other filmmakers like that as well. And that's not incorrect. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with the fact that you love the process. Forgetting the image aside, the
Yeah. Yeah.
process itself is very different. Um, the goal with Hail Mary was never to necessarily mimic 1570 ever. That wasn't.
Mm.
But we did test it. I've tested it in the past, and I've shot with it. I'm shooting with it. Like I'm like I'm 1570 is an amazing format, and
Yeah.
it's divine. And when you print it one to one, I think it kind of is unbeatable. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw Oppenheimer at City Walk,
Yeah.
and that was a one to one. The black and white footage of Downey Jr. I think was the
Makes no
most
sense. Yeah.
beautiful image that I've probably ever seen
I agree.
projected.
Yeah. I
Right?
agree. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, hats off to that. The problem is that unfortunately, only a couple thousand people in the world will ever see it like that. Maybe
Yeah.
120,000 or whatever the numbers are.
It's small, yeah.
And that's no reason not to do it either. Like you
No.
could
No.
you could say, well, just because it's 'cause people are going to watch it on their phone, does that mean we could just shoot it on
We
an
it
iPhone?
should be
Like,
bad. I want
yeah,
my Instagram videos to look good because I don't care
yeah,
that they're going on Instagram. I still want it to look good. I'm not using
yeah.
the format as an excuse to be bad. Yeah.
So I think when you're choosing a format for a film, it really bases itself on how what the filmmakers want and what they want to get out of it. Because if you ask Chris and Phil what they wanted the film to look like, and we talked at length about what it looked like, and I came up with a presentation and said, these are the films it doesn't want to look like, and these are the films
Yeah.
that it does want to look like. And obviously, I'm not going to get into what it doesn't want to look like because that's
Yeah.
not fair. But um, we had a very firm thing, and the reality is that we did not want it to look like a digital shot film. It
Yeah.
and films that I was able to show on digital we didn't want it to look like. Now, by the way, again, this is the film digital debate. If you want to
Yeah.
discuss that,
Yeah.
there are
Let's do it.
also there was films that were shot on film not very well that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
didn't want it to look like either. So it wasn't just that it was digital. It's just that it wasn't using the medium properly. Um, but invariably, all the films that we did want it to look like were for the most part film,
Yeah.
and but we knew that wasn't conducive to the way that the guys like to shoot and the way that Ryan they ad lib. There's a lot of
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
throwing out ideas, and so it wasn't conducive. And so having done a film out before, again, I don't ever want to be known as the film out guy either, by
No.
the
No.
way,
No. For
because that's
sure.
the other
Yeah.
thing.
For sure.
Because I've now done it 3 times in a row, which I'm like going, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now it's started to become a habit.
I have
Like,
to fight against. I even have to fight because I'm very pro digital and I'm not anti film at all. I love both mediums so much. But I'm also of the camp similar to you where I'm like, we can do it with digital. It's just it's intention. You got to know what you're doing. But then I
yep,
always, anytime someone's like, yeah, but Greg does the film out, I'm like, I know because he can, right? And
yes,
that's great and that's amazing. But there's also really great look what Steve Yedlin's been doing and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like the
yep,
science behind emulation is getting really good.
it is.
But sorry, to your point, it's like yeah, like I'm constantly fighting that film out a little bit, and I don't want you to stop doing it. I think it's amazing, but it does
Yeah.
become a point of conversation that I think people are pushing in the wrong direction with that
I mean,
debate, right?
I think that the advantage that I've got, and I'm not going to be blind to it, is that I've been able to work on films that directors have loved the look of it so much that they push
Yeah,
for it.
yeah,
But by the way, it doesn't always help in the sense that I mean, we were going to do the film out of the creator,
yeah,
and eventually Gareth looked at it because we'd shot that at Oren and Gareth when they shot it at 12,500 ASA, and it
yeah,
had grain, it had noise, it had that something, um, and so we looked at it and went, well, in here the emulation is going to do 99% of the work, so therefore that to do that for that 1% maybe wasn't worth it, and
yeah,
I think Gareth traded, days in the mix for that, and that's his prerogative. So
yeah,
it's not necessarily something that has to occur, but you shoot for it. So we shot Hail Mary quite clean. Like
yeah,
I shot it. I didn't. The lenses were quite sharp. Apart from the Earth stuff, which were
yeah,
the Mercuries, the beautiful Mercuries, the lenses that Ari built for me were quite sharp in the center. To the point where on the monitor, I remember thinking, "Oh no, I need to dirty this up. I need to soften it. I need to do something. I need to filter it." Or,
yeah,
um, but then I kept saying to the guys, we're definitely doing a film out, right? Because
yeah,
I will change the way that I shoot this. If we say we're wavering on the film out, and they went, not even a debate. It's not, it's going to be IMAX. It's going to be film out. It's going to be this. It's going to be 70 mil. Like they went, they were hardcore about their beliefs, and so I just lit it as well as I could, knowing that's what was going to happen.
it worked. Like I said, like when I've seen it now 3 times in IMAX and twice in 70 mil and everything, and I've sat close to that screen, and it's not like it's breaking
Right?
down in the front row. You know what I mean? Like it looks just, and I can't wait for the 4K release. Here's something interesting about the home releases. There's a lot of I'm of two camps. I'm actually more of one camp. There's a lot of people that want the expanded 143 at home. I don't know if you've heard this. If
Yeah,
you've maybe been asked it before.
I have.
Here's my take on it. You can agree or disagree. To me, IMAX is not just an aspect ratio. It's not just that it's 143. It's a physical experience, right?
Yeah,
So for me, when I see Ryan's face fighting the astrophage or fighting trying to get on the ship and stuff like that, and like it's a monumental. It's just taking up my entire peripheral view. That is
yeah,
unbelievable, right? I don't know how much that translates at home then from the letterbox look when I'm looking at a 55-inch screen from 8 feet away on my couch. And like maybe it's elitist, maybe it's too pretentious to say that it should be reserved only for the cinema, but part of me feels like that's where it was sort of meant to be. And if we're gonna like preserve this cinematic experience, maybe maybe that full ratio should only expand there. I don't know.
yeah.
It's like it's something I've been thinking about a lot because it comes up quite a bit now, and I know Denise even talked about it being like it's kind of meant for the theater. Like that's why we do it. That's why we expand ratios out. And maybe there's like a 190 happy medium, you know what I mean? Like but then it's like we're in an aspect ratio hell at that point. We're just like, can we commit to something here, right?
Tell me, well, try shooting it then.
Yeah,
Forget
yeah,
the watching. If you think you're in
yeah,
audience hell, try actually
yeah,
framing
yeah,
for it. It's like
yeah,
that is a form of torture.
yeah,
You take somebody you hate and you ask them to do that, and you will torture them. Um,
yeah.
it, I think that I don't know. I mean, I've got a copy of June, um, because I obviously June Part One in four
Yeah,
three,
yeah.
right? And it's amazing.
Gorgeous.
I
I'm sure it's
love it.
gorgeous. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's not an experience.
Mm,
It's just a visual thing. Like the
mm-hmm.
4:3 is how it was framed, and it looks better in 4:3, I think, than it does in 190.
Yeah.
But that's not the experience because you're on a computer or on a screen with bars left and right. Then you got bars left and right, and then bars top and bottom, and like suddenly you're dealing with a tiny little image on your big 80-inch screen.
Whatever it
So
is you have, yeah.
I think that it's a better thing to have something that uses the entire medium of what you're watching it on. So if you're watching it on a 190 screen or a 185 screen, then it just fills that screen. I think that is the best medium at home. And I agree. And I wish that there were more screenings of it in IMAX. But
Yeah.
IMAX are pretty good at returning films back into the cinema. I mean,
Oh, for
Cinema's had a
sure.
great re-release as well.
Yeah.
And I
I
know
think you
that.
guys are even
So
getting a re-release after Mario. Like they're gonna do another couple weeks of Project Hail Mary coming up too.
yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I could barely get a seat as well. So
Yeah.
it's no, they should
I
be.
mean,
They
okay.
absolutely should be.
Here's a broader question as we kind of get to the end of this a little bit. Like, you are an MVP at picking projects, man. Like, you are just like sort of not to jinx it by any means. You know what I mean? But you're on a streak for a while now, where it's just bangers after bangers. You're doing so well. This one in particular, I just feel like, from a broad audience standpoint, in the sense like I can take anybody at any age to this movie and go, you're gonna have an amazing time.
Yeah,
How does
yeah.
this one feel for you now that you have a little bit of distance from it now, as like maybe like an audience member and obviously a creator of making it? How do you feel about this one in your filmography, going into the future?
I mean, I haven't done a proper space movie before. I mean, I
Mm,
wouldn't call Rogue One and I wouldn't call Dune space movies, right? I
mm.
mean, Rogue One's a fantasy. I mean, Dune's a sci-fi.
Sci-fi
But
Star
this
Wars.
is
Yeah.
kind of space film. I don't. It's sci-fi. It's a space movie.
It's a space movie. It's
It's
a
a
full-on
grounded.
space
It's a
movie.
space
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
It's a proper space movie. Um, so I haven't really done one before, and the idea of being like when you take a project, there's always 1,000 things that you think about. Like, okay, what are the sets? We're going to be trapped on these tiny little sets for months on end, and they were tiny. They're hard to shoot in. They're tricky. Like, they, they can be unfun, technically, right?
Mm,
Because impossible to light. You can see every light source. You got to pull stuff away, put cameras in, particularly if they're larger cameras, which the Alexa 65 at that point was a big camera,
mm.
relatively. Um, and so you have those discussions with yourself, and then But I've known Phil and Chris for almost 10 years now, and
Mm,
I love what they do. Everything they do. They're involved with producing and directing. Like as directors, I love what they do,
yeah,
and I think that their instincts are fantastic. They don't come from a film world, which means that they don't have any of the preconceived ideas of filmmakers. I mean, like filmmakers as
yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to that's animation.
Animation, yeah.
And so they have all the skills of great storytellers and the great skills of animators, and they're they're funny, and they have heart. So it's just
Mm,
like and when this film um, came up for me, like it was I mean, I've been pretty keen to work with Ryan for a while. I loved. I mean, you talk about a guy with a great choice, a history of choice. I
unbelievable.
mean, you can't really point to any of the films that he's done and gone, no,
He
like
knows what he's doing.
everything
Yeah,
for what it did, it hit it out of the park. Like
absolutely.
everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I would hope. I mean, to emulate something like Ryan's career in the sense that obviously I'm not an actor, but it, he has great taste in projects, and I would hope that between me and my agents who help me sort of navigate the Hollywood system, that we can navigate our way through and find the best projects that not necessarily make the most box office. And that's great, by the way, that everyone's kids to their grandparents can see this film and come out of it feeling something. But it's more about what can challenge me as an artist and as a filmmaker, because I've been super fortunate to have worked with some of the best filmmakers in the planet, and that's not lost on me any day of the week. And but I also need to be able to challenge myself in a very real way,
Mm-hmm.
and have projects that scare me enough that I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. And and actually Hail Mary was that for me for quite a while, because it wasn't the technicals, it wasn't how do we do the astrophage, it wasn't how we do the IR, like all that stuff was all just kind of, I tell you what, the thing that I hadn't solved in my brain was how do we get this thing looking like those references that I showed the guys,
Yeah.
shooting on the in this digital format
Yeah.
this way with these lenses. And you know I was like struggling because it's not just a film out thing. There was a whole other side of it. And I remember that the day actually Ryan joined us, because he, I think up to that point he'd been doing sort of Barbie promotions. I think he performed at the Oscars, probably one of the
Yeah.
greatest performances of
Yeah.
any
Yeah. Yeah.
Oscars, in a pink
Yeah.
suit and Slash next to him. Um, but he joined us not long after that to start the movie, and that day itself, I kind of happened upon the key reference that I went, this is what the film looks like, and I
Amazing.
could point to one thing as opposed to a myriad of pictures on my walls, and I had to explain to people, well, there's that and this, and
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
sound like an idiot. But I remember that was when I had my first chat to Ryan about it, because he's a producer and very heavily involved in the film.
Yeah.
I went, I've just found what this film's going to look like. And he goes, perfect. Tell me. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to show you. And I showed him a music video that Chris Cunningham did for Bjork called All Is Full of Love.
Amazing.
And it's Bjork as a robot,
Okay.
um, and her being put together by another robot and then making love with herself as another robot. It's beautiful. It's probably one of the finest music videos ever made. And if you haven't seen it,
I haven't.
you
I'll have
have
to
to do
check it
yourself
out.
a favor and watch it. But what's beautiful about it is it's um it's serene, it's beautiful, it's harsh, it's kind of futuristic, but it's analog. Like the
Nice.
look of it's analog because it was shot on film. It was like
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
but it's Japanese sort of high-end sci-fi robot stuff. Like
Cool.
it is beautiful. It is stunningly beautiful. And whilst Hail Mary wasn't going to have that kind of that look overall, it was the spirit of what that was that I went, okay, I know I can shoot high-end metal that does this thing, that does that, and I can do it in a way that feels warm and human.
There was one more thing I wanted to ask you. What I love about the exterior spaceship scenes is they feel handheld, and I'm so used to seeing spaceships static, like almost again seen very grand and still. But I think I was reading maybe in the ASC article or it was in the Variety that you kind of reshot those virtually a little bit too. Is
Yeah,
that right? Where you got to
yeah.
actually like kind of hold a camera for that? Is that how that worked?
So this is where, having Paul Lambert as a VFX supervisor um, is fantastic. I mean, because normally what happens is the DP is employed from pre-production through to wrap, right? And
Yeah,
we say goodbye and we start a new project. Um, I was coming in and relensing actions. So, and also during the prep, Framestore had built the animations of the ship in 3D in Unreal.
yeah,
So I could actually watch the animation of a ship flying through a universe, and I could lens it with a camera.
that's so cool.
Literally, it was a virtual camera, but I could lens it.
Yeah,
And so there were times where, it would come at me and I'd be like, whoa, like, and as if I was literally standing in
yeah,
space, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
so we did try and come up with a series of rules. Like, okay, I physically couldn't be standing in space. Although there was a joke, actually, which the guys, I don't think they did, which was, maybe they did. We should look for it. But
Yeah.
on the hull of the ship, I wanted to put a little shadow of me in a spacesuit with a camera.
That's amazing.
or a little cameraman, like maybe not me, maybe Jason, in a
Yeah, yeah.
spacesuit, just a tiny little, in a shadow on the ship somewhere. I should ask the guys. I don't think they ever did that.
That's a really
Would
funny
have been a
Easter egg.
genius. Would have been a
If that
genius
is
idea.
that's a genius Easter egg because it's kind of like the accidental coffee cup left in a shot from the crew. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That would have been awesome.
that would have been cool. But I did lens it in 3D, and that's why, like, even for example, the scene where he's drunk, like
Yeah,
I was following the ship,
moving
and I
it.
was
Yeah,
I was like trying to kind of, and if you watch that again, it's like it's not just a beautiful kind of ship
no,
going across the sky. It's like,
the
man, that
movement.
ship's drunk. It's drunk.
I'm telling you, man, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of the best looking space movies of all time. I've been singing its praises left, right, and center. And obviously, your whole team is fantastic. And I'm just like, I'm happy for you. I can't wait to see what you're doing next. I hope we get to talk about Beatles at some point in the future. And I hope you're doing well because this is a good one, man. You did really good.
Thanks, man. It's your
Yeah,
passion's contagious. I appreciate it, and
appreciate it.
it's hard sometimes when you make a film because every every scene in that movie for me comes with baggage. Like
Yeah,
everything in that film comes with
yeah,
baggage, good and bad, right? And
yeah, yeah.
nothing bad as in like PTSD bad. I'm talking about like we live life as we make a movie,
Stress. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and and you want to swing as you swing for the fences. You're prepared for some levels of failure and
Hmm.
some whatever the baseball term is when you strike out
Yeah, you
right.
strike
There's
out. Yeah,
you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
if you
Swing
swing
and a
for the
miss. Yeah,
fences you gotta strike out at some time.
yeah, absolutely.
And so with when you make a film like that, you swing as hard as you can. Well, I do, as do the guys, as do my team, and you just hope that it's going to be good, and you hope that in that swing that it's going to be appreciated by people, because the only reason really to do it is not for our own edification, because it's hard for us to watch our own movies. It is for me anyway, but
Yeah,
it's that when people have passion for it and enjoy it, I get so much energy out of that, and it's like, okay, well, I've got to make sure that the next one I do and going forward that I still keep up that level of precision with the work, so that
yeah,
when you and I are talking again and then again and then again, that we're talking about something that isn't just a meh kind of thing. It's something that,
totally.
I've swung hard for and my team has swung hard for. So, yeah. But I'm glad thank you for your passion. What can I say?
No, appreciate it. Thank you for making cool shit that makes my job easier too. So I can talk about great stuff being made out there and highlight it.